We hear a lot about these 30-day challenges, but what really happens during that month? What does the day-to-day actually feel like? Well, in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on a pretty intense one, a 30-day blueprint for sexual discipline. We're going to map out the entire experience week by week based on the accounts of people who've documented it.
So that's the big question, isn't it? What's really going on here? Let's forget the myths and the online hype for a minute. Based on documented timelines, we're going to chart the course week by week and really dig into the psychological and physical shifts that are reported to happen when someone takes on this challenge.
Okay, so first things first, what exactly is this 30-day blueprint? Well, it's way more than just a test of willpower. The best way to think of it is like a personal experiment. It's a 30-day period where you abstain from certain things, not just to prove you can, but to step back and just observe, to see what, if any, changes happen in your mind and your body. The goal isn't just to resist, it's to see what happens when you do. Now, this journey isn't a straight line, not at all. It really unfolds in 3 distinct acts. First up, you've got the initial ordeal, and yeah, it's as tough as it sounds. Then comes the turning point, where things really start to shift. And finally, you have the final stabilization, where a new normal kind of sets in. So let's break down that first, really tough phase. All right, welcome to week 1, the initial ordeal. Pretty much every account you read says this is hands down the hardest part of the entire 30 days. This is where your resolve gets tested to its absolute breaking point. So this first week, it's not just one long, hard slog. It has its own little roller coaster inside it. You start off days 1 and 2 feeling super motivated, right? Your resolve is high. But then reality hits. By days 3 to 5, many people report these really intense urges and a kind of mental cloudiness, what they call brain fog. And this all builds to a peak near the end of the week, in a phase often described as a flatline, a period of super low energy and motivation. It's the height of the struggle. And this, right here, really shows the huge gap between what people expect and what they actually experience. The promise, or at least the hope, is for these instant benefits, superpowers, total mental clarity. But the reality that's documented is a whole lot grittier. We're talking irritability, low energy, and just a massive, massive test of willpower. So, what happens if you actually manage to push through this part? Well, getting through that initial ordeal brings you to this second phase, crossing the threshold. This is the part where that early investment of pure grit starts to pay off. The struggle starts to fade, and you get a really noticeable shift. And what's wild is that the source material points to a surprisingly specific moment for this change. It's right around day 10. That seems to be the magic number when a lot of people report that the tide finally starts to turn, and that initial brain fog at last begins to clear up. This chart gives us a perfect visual of that turning point. As you move into that second week, look at what happens. Those intense urges from week 1, they start to go down. And at the exact same time, mental clarity and just your overall energy levels start to climb. It's a total flip from the experience of that first week. And as that energy and clarity go up, a whole bunch of other benefits are said to pop up. You see psychological shifts, like more confidence and motivation. But there are also more concrete changes, like having more energy to go out and be social. Some people even report physical changes, like their voice having a deeper resonance. And that brings us to the final act of this 30-day timeline, setting a new baseline. Now, this isn't about chasing some constant high or always feeling superhuman. It's about all those benefits stabilizing and just becoming your new, sustainable normal. I love this insight because it just sums up the whole feeling perfectly. The goal isn't to feel superhuman. It's about feeling, well, normal again, in a really good way. That analogy of getting a clean install on your brain's operating system, it just perfectly captures that feeling of renewed clarity and function. And if we look at the reported mindset during this final week, you can see it's a really well-rounded state of mind. Sure, confidence and clarity are the big players here, but they're balanced out by significant reports of less anxiety and more emotional stability. It's a holistic change. And there it is, 30 days, completed. It's just a number, but hitting it marks the end of that whole 3-act story we've been following, from that initial brutal ordeal through the turning point and landing right here at this new, stabilized baseline. Okay, so the challenge is over. Now what? This final part is all about integrating that experience and really understanding the full arc of the journey we've just looked at. let's just pull back for a moment and get a bird's eye view of the whole thing. This table does a great job of crystallizing the link between the challenge and the reward at every stage. You can see exactly how the initial ordeal of cravings is what's needed to build resolve. That resolve then leads to the shift toward more energy and clarity. And that, finally, leads to a stabilized state of confidence. See, each phase builds right on top of the last one.
So, look, if there's one crucial point to take away from all this, it's that this experience, as it's been documented, isn't random. It follows a pretty predictable pattern. Understanding this arc of challenge, which leads to reward, which leads to stabilization, that's the key. It's a structured process. And all of that leaves us with one final, pretty powerful question to think about. Is a journey like this just a 30-day system reset? A temporary cleanse? Or, for the people who do it, does it actually become the foundation for a whole new lifestyle? And that answer, of course, lies just beyond the timeline.